Joining us now is Atlanta Hawks fan Iqbal Lakhani. Iqbal, with a great story. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, because after seeing you hit a half-court shot the day before Thanksgiving to win
Yeah.
$10,000, and then seeing that this wasn't the first time you did it. About 4.5 years ago, March 2018, you did the exact same thing, same court, half-court shot for another 10 grand. A wild story. Two shots, 20
Yeah.
grand, 4.5 years apart. What is your secret, man?
You know what? I stick with the same routine. I went into the shot 4.5 years ago with, certain step approach, a few steps, a few dribbles, and just focused on the rim at that point and really just did the same thing. I was very superstitious, went into the same exact routine. And it honestly played out for me and worked out really well. So.
Yes, money. There was no rim, Iqbal. Absolute cash on this
You know
one.
what was crazy is when I shot it, I got back to my seat. The depth perception is so tough in that building. Is I go back to my seat and I asked my buddy, I was like, "Hey, did I hit the backboard?" He's like, "No, you hit all net there." So I was shocked, honestly, when I went back. So
Yeah, that's good to hear from a professional half-court shooter like yourself. You're not a professional, but honestly, going back to the starters days in our summer league, we would
yeah,
step up and miss half-court shot after half-court shot after
yeah,
half-court shot. Our appearances, we went over. Part of it as well, like you're saying, is the depth perception. Part of it is just having weak shoulders like myself. It was terrible. Do you have any advice for us if we ever get back on a court to try this again?
yeah. I would recommend if you guys had not already is going to the gym ahead of time and getting your shoulders loose. I will say that was effective. I went to three different gyms that day. I found out at 2 o'clock that day I was shooting it. I was at the zoo with my nephew,
Oh, wow.
and I'm trying to figure out, okay, I gotta get to a gym as soon as possible. So I went to three different gyms around Atlanta and eventually found one where there was a couple people and asked them if I could just kind of shoot some half court shots and had to communicate what was actually happening. So getting my shoulders loose, honestly, is the best advice I could try to give to you guys. So
That is the absolute best thing I've heard because I find
yeah,
I find that, and we just showed the clip if you're watching on
yeah,
YouTube. I find I come up short every time myself.
yeah,
I short arm it because I'm stiff as a board, so that is good to
yeah.
hear. You found out 2 o'clock same day. I'm interested in how you get selected. How did it happen? Well, did you get a call or what? And how did it happen the
Yes.
first time as well?
Yeah, so I'm a season ticket holder. So I've been a ticket holder for 10 years. And, I had been talking to my rep, randomly throughout the season in an effort to do it. They actually had a tryout this year for the Hawks for potential half court shot shooters because I guess in the past years, there was just so many opportunities that people wanted. So they said, hey, why not do a tryout? So before the season had started, there was an open practice. And at one of those open practices, there was probably a line of 500 season ticket holders, that all got one shot to essentially their claim to fame as their tryout. So I did go there and showed up. And I guess I made the cut because I had gotten an email at 2 o'clock. Literally, I just arrived to the zoo for my nephew's birthday at 2 o'clock. And he had emailed me and said, hey, we got an opening tonight. Do you want to take it? And at that time, I'm scrambling because I'm like, I got to get a shot. I got to practice. I got
Yeah.
to do something. I got to spend time with my nephew for his birthday. So had to find that all balanced out. And eventually I committed to it. But yeah, it was just via email. He communicated to me. So
Amazing.
yeah,
That's interesting. You heard hours before. Same thing happened the first time?
the first time was actually a little bit different. I had found out it was a Celtics Hawks game, way back in I think December of 2017. I had rolled my ankle that day. It was a tennis ball. So I had contact my rep to say, I can't do this today, but like, this is my life dream to like try to have this opportunity to do it. And he had rescheduled me actually for 2 to 3 months out. It ended up being versus the Sixers in like March of 2018. So I actually knew that time ahead of time where I, recovered from my ankle injury and then eventually got some more practice in, I would say, in 2018. But this time was a lot different. Literally 3, 4 hours before I was headed to the stadium, I found out. So
Oh, amazing.
yeah,
So I got to ask you, both times you won 10K. I'm
Yeah,
going to ask you how much or what you spent it on. I know you spent it on the Peachtree sweater that I'm looking at
yeah,
right now here.
exactly.
An
Go
incredible
Hawks.
sweater.
Yeah,
It's a beauty sweater, the new City Edition jersey
yeah,
lineup. But 10K each time.
yeah.
What have you spent it on, and what will you spend it on?
Yeah. So I would say they're very different. 4.5 years apart. I was 28 before, and that I will say we went out that night and had a good time the first time around. I went out with a few buddies. The cool part about was I just mentioned it to my friends, and we go to a lot of Hawks games. So the first time there was like 15 to 20 people there because I'd known a couple months ahead of time, so we had time to kind of make something of it. So I had almost 20 people there. So immediately afterwards, we actually I had to get drinks for everyone, of course, but, spent it probably a little bit more responsibly last time. And actually just put it in my account at that point and didn't really think anything of it. This time around, I'm actually getting married in May.
Oh, congrats.
So the thought was, yeah, I appreciate that. So it was, hey, we've been talking about where we want to go for a honeymoon. So I'm actually going to contribute it to our honeymoon fund. So it's going for a much different cause at this point and actually allocate the dollars to use it for that reason. So.
All right. And I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have you back, Iqbal, or do they like that you keep burying these
Yeah.
shirts?
You know what? I've wondered that same thing myself, and I'm trying to figure out the right time or tread very carefully on when to ask them. But I hope they'll bring me back out. Hopefully it's a feel good story. Third time's a charm, and hopefully I can make them proud, and maybe I'll get a tryout one day or something. We'll see.
Man, watching that thing go swish, absolutely no rim. I was proud watching from here. Thank you so much, Iqbal, for coming on No Dunks. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Go Hawks.